All right, so today we're going deep on infidelity.
Ooh,
Yeah. And
that's a big one.
it is. It is. We got Esther Perel's book, The State of Affairs, and let me tell you,
Okay.
this book really shakes things up in terms of how we usually think about infidelity.
Yeah, Perel, she doesn't let you off easy. She really pushes us to look beyond. You know
Mm.
that simple equation, cheating equals bad.
Right, right.
It's like, okay, there's so much more there, you
Yeah.
know? Like, what are the individual needs, the
Mhm.
relationship dynamics? What about societal
It's
pressures?
all connected,
It's
yeah.
all part of it.
And what's interesting is she says that infidelity,
Yeah.
it doesn't always mean like the relationship is
Oh.
over, the end, kaput.
Yeah, yeah.
And that really surprised me.
Right.
When I first heard that, I was like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
There's more to this story.
Exactly, exactly. And one of the things I found really interesting was just how she redefines infidelity itself.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's not just the physical act. It's so much more about a breach of trust.
Okay.
You know, it's those lies, the keeping secrets,
Right.
the emotional betrayals, all of that.
That's interesting.
So think about it like this. Let's say you're constantly confiding in a coworker
Uh-huh.
about all your relationship problems, you know?
Yeah.
Sharing all the intimate details
Yeah.
that you haven't even talked about with your partner.
Whoa, okay.
Could that be a form of infidelity?
I never thought about it that way.
Right.
Like it's really pushing the boundaries of what we normally think of as infidelity.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, Perel points out that obviously affairs have always existed,
Right, right.
but the way we view them, how we deal with them has changed so much, especially in modern times.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
You know, like our expectations of relationships
Right.
are just completely different now.
Yeah, they're constantly evolving, right?
Constantly evolving. And so that raises the big question.
The big question.
Why? Why do people stray? Is it just about being happy?
Right, right.
You know, going into this, I was expecting some simple answers.
Me too.
But Perel, she really digs deep.
Oh, she does.
She does not disappoint.
Yeah.
It's rarely black and white. It's the unmet needs, the yearning for self-discovery,
Yeah.
the weight of all these expectations we have in modern relationships, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not even about being unhappy with your partner.
Right, right.
You know what I mean?
You know, I gotta say, I always get a little skeptical when I hear people use self-discovery
Yeah.
as like a justification for infidelity.
Sure.
Because it feels a little bit like avoiding responsibility.
Yeah, and Perel acknowledges that. You know, there's a big difference
Yes.
between genuine personal growth
Uh-huh.
and just using that as an excuse to justify
Right,
hurtful actions.
right, right.
But here's something to consider. Think about how much we expect from our partners today. It's like they got to be our lover,
Yeah.
our best friend, the co-parent, the therapist.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's like, whoa, slow down.
It's a lot for one person.
It is a lot to ask of one person.
Yeah.
And so, you know, a friend of mine was telling me, she's like, you know, I felt more like my ex-husband's business partner than his wife.
Right.
And I was like, oh, wow. And it's like, maybe that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
Like all this pressure, this intensity creates a vulnerability. And Perel's point is that to really move forward, you have to understand the why, the root cause of what's going on.
Absolutely.
And those reasons can be so complex. Like Perel talks about how affairs can be acts of rebellion, cries for attention, even just attempts to soothe insecurities. So it's not just about the other person, it's about what's going on within the individual.
Right, right. It's internal.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. But what about people who are living these double lives? That always seems so fascinating and confusing to me.
Right. It's like, how do you do that? It's a psychological tightrope.
Okay.
You know, on the one hand, you've got the allure of secrecy, the excitement of something new.
Right. That forbidden fruit.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes, Will.
But then on the other hand, there's this erosion of trust,
Right.
of intimacy in your primary relationship.
Right.
It creates intense cognitive dissonance.
Like you're battling with yourself constantly.
Exactly. Exactly.
So with all this complexity, are there any patterns when it comes to like gender and infidelity?
That's a really interesting question. And
Yeah.
Perel, she cautions against just like simple gender-based explanations.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, cultural norms play a role.
Yeah, of course.
But it's just so much more nuanced than that.
Go ahead.
You know, like, for example, societal expectations around masculinity might lead men to seek validation through affairs.
Okay.
Whereas for women, it might be more about the emotional connection.
Right.
Okay. But even then, those are tendencies, not absolutes.
Right.
We
Right.
can't just box people in.
Totally. Totally.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, whether it's, man or woman, whatever the motivation is, infidelity leads to the same question, right?
Yeah.
What happens after?
Right. What happens after it's revealed?
Yeah.
Because that betrayal, it shatters trust. It leads to anger, shame, grief.
Right.
It's a deeply painful experience.
Of course.
For both partners, but in different ways.
Right. They're both going through something totally different.
Absolutely.
It's hard to even imagine, like, coming back from that.
Yeah. It's tough.
But Perel argues that it doesn't always mean the end. So is growth really possible after such a breach of trust?
It is possible. It's not easy.
Right.
It's a really difficult journey. Perel emphasizes that honest communication, that's key.
Okay.
Both partners need to be willing to confront those uncomfortable truths. Really delve into their vulnerabilities. That's how you start to rebuild trust. And some couples even find they come out stronger
Wow. Okay.
than they were before.
So some rebuild, some choose to separate.
Right.
How do they navigate that decision?
I think the key is making a conscious choice together.
Together.
Not just reacting.
Right. Out of anger.
Exactly. It can't be fueled by that initial hurt and anger.
Yeah.
Both partners really need to understand their own individual needs, the complexities of the situation,
Right.
and then decide together whether to rebuild or to go their separate ways.
Okay, so big picture, after this deep dive, what does this all mean for our listener?
That's a great question.
Infidelity, it's a tough subject.
It is.
There's no easy answers.
No.
But Perel's work, it reminds us that beyond the pain, there's an opportunity
Yeah.
for growth.
Absolutely. For individual growth, relational growth.
It challenges the fairy tale ideals of relationships.
Right. It does.
It forces us to confront the messiness,
Yeah.
the reality of love.
The reality.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But it also pushes us to examine our own needs,
yes.
our expectations,
Our expectations.
our vulnerability.
It's all connected.
Yeah, a lot to think about.
It is. Lots to think about.
It is. So here's something we didn't get to cover today
Okay.
that I think you'll find really fascinating. If infidelity is really about
Yeah.
a breach of trust, right,
Mm.
at its core,
Right.
how is all this tracking technology,
Oh, wow.
like tracking apps on our phones, this constant digital connection,
Yeah.
how is that changing how we even define betrayal
That's a good question.
in modern relationships?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that one.
Lots to think about.
Lots to think about.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.